What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Believe in Kentucky. AG Aaron Gershon of the Cats Paul is on vacation, but we got a pro, a vet, a friend of the podcast filling in. Look, he's on those Believe streets as well. Believe in the ACC. So when you go to Believe Kentucky to give it 5 stars and rate and review it, go to Believe in the ACC and do the same thing for our guy Kendrick Haskins. KH, what's up, man?
Man, I'm good, man. Just first week back from vacation. You're always a little sluggish coming back, but we're making things happen.
I hear you. I hear you. Look, it's summertime. All the fall sports will be ripping and running wide open. So glad you got your little vacay in right now, man. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, the season, because I always call the season from when high school football begins until college baseball ends, and college baseball is still going on. So
It is.
a long season.
It's not a whole lot of Kentucky stuff to talk about. So I'd be remiss if I didn't start with this. You are a Murray State alum. So you just watched your school go to Omaha, man. So congrats. So what was that like for you?
Man, that was wild. Not in my wildest imagination would I think Murray State would be in the College World Series on the national stage like that. I mean, that's the biggest thing to happen in that school in athletic history. And then they got a strong basketball tradition, and they've made the tournament, and John Morant had his run there. But as far as making the national stage and big wins, that win over Duke in the Super Regional, and in my opinion, and I'm sure it's probably a lot of people's opinion at Murray, that's the biggest win in school history.
Because, man, they went to Oxford and punked Ole Miss, and then went to Durham and did Duke too. So I think baseball, it might be hardest of all. To get to Omaha, harder than a Final Four, harder. And so for them to slay Dragons on the road, man.
Just the thing is they did it on the road. That's what's even more impressive. All their games were on the road.
Yeah, I'm not trying to stir nothing up, but you being a Murray State alum, everybody follow Kendrick Haskins wave on Twitter. I didn't see any mention of that on your Twitter profile. So you should be telling everybody that Ja Morant, Bud Foster, and Jim Varney are all fighting to be the second most popular Murray alum. I didn't see nothing on your profile.
You left Popeye Jones out.
Oh yeah. My bad.
Popeye's the king.
So I was like, man, I ain't even seen nothing on his profile about Murray until so I'm just messing with you, man. But
I made that profile so long ago, I don't even know what's on there.
Congrats to your racers. And on a Kentucky note, man, the past 2 years, Kentucky, Louisville, and Murray all make it to Omaha. I forgot who I saw the tweet, and Western got a squad too. So Kentucky is doing the thing on the college baseball scene right now, man.
College baseball and volleyball scene too. I mean, Kentucky and Louisville both making Final Fours. Kentucky winning the championship. Western Kentucky is always in the tournament every year. So, we're doing our thing here in the Bluegrass State.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely had to touch on those topics right quick. The big thing for Kentucky, you coming in on the tail end of it, being on vacation, but Vince Marrow, the big dog, takes his talents to Louisville. So when you got back in and heard that, what was your thoughts since you were, I guess, out of the loop as you can be?
Right. I was on vacation. I was out of the country, and it's 6 hours ahead, and so I'm asleep, and I get a text. I was talking about Vince Marrow's coming to Louisville, and the person I got it from, he's usually dependable, but sometimes he does fall for stuff on the internet. And I was like, oh, whatever. Went back to sleep, and I was like, let me double check. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it's funny just to see everybody's reactions. But I mean, Braum and Marrow go way back. I mean, I had video of them somewhere when the UK U of L game was here, and the two of them talking courtside. And so they go back. I think they were XFL teammates or something like that. So it's not like something that was just completely out of the blue. And Braum's been recruiting Vince for years, and so I guess the timing was just right for Vince, and on down 64 he came.
Yeah. And he's done some media and radio, for Louisville and Lexington. And he did mention that, how tight they were, and definitely tried to get him before, but he said that he wasn't gonna work for him at Purdue because he wasn't gonna live in West Lafayette. So I'm like,
I've been there. I don't blame him.
Starkville is like, hey, see, we ain't the only town catching strays out.
At least Starksville gets hot. I mean, West Lafayette is freezing. It's not fun.
Yeah, so like you said, the time was right. So with you hosting Believe in the ACC, right there, connected in Louisville, what is that? How does that impact the Louisville side? Him coming as the GM. So from the Cards perspective, the ACC conference perspective, your thoughts on how that kind of this move affects that?
I think immediately it's going to help with recruiting because he's a great recruiter. Because it would boggle my mind sometimes some of the 4-star receivers he would get to come to Kentucky, and because I mean, let's be honest, they didn't throw the ball much. So
right,
4-star receiver, why are you going there? It's because of him, and like he said, he's got that to sell at Louisville. So I think it's going to make an impact on recruiting and recruiting that's already doing well at U of L anyway. And so I think it's going to stabilize. I think it makes them a legit permanent contender in the ACC year in and year out. And even though they were anyway, I think it adds to it. I think you can. They're going to be right there contending to be in the ACC championship every year, I think. And so I think this is where it makes its biggest impact is on the recruiting trail and the quality of players you're going to see playing for Louisville.
So, of course, the fan reaction is what you would think it would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was surprised or, but Rick Pitino going, even with a few years in between with the stop to Boston. Marvin Stone transferred. Isaiah Cummings came back to Louisville after leaving Kentucky.
Yeah.
So it's, he now Vince joins that list. So it's going to be, a stab to the heart. It's man, you could have went anywhere else, but because that's just the blue and the red of it all, man.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. If he'd have left and gone to Ohio State or somewhere, or Michigan, something like that, I don't think it would have been as much vitriol. But him going down the road, even if he'd have gone to Purdue, I don't think it would have been that much. But him leaving directly from Kentucky going to Louisville, because like I said, Rick, he had a stop before he came here. But he's going straight from there, and that's crazy.
And I still remember with Rick, I was like, "Come on, man, really? You Michigan was trying to get you too, even back, back then.
Yeah, because it came down between Michigan and Louisville.
Yeah,
and I remember watching it there because he was doing the CBS. He was calling the tournament that year, and people were gauging where he's going based on what color tie he had on. And I remember one game he had on a yellow tie, so everybody just thought he was going to Michigan. Yeah, that was wild.
Hey, everybody just trying to read and overanalyze tea leaves even before social media, man.
Yep.
Oh, this gotta mean. Oh, wait a minute.
But with Rick, it might because Rick does like toying with people. So with him, he probably was something behind it.
That's true. That's true. The other thing, I guess, as far as Kentucky, like you said, it's not much. It's this time of year. They announced the schedule for the basketball. You got to go to Alabama, go to Auburn. They don't come to Lexington, so that's a little bit of a rough stretch. You're at Arkansas because it's the return trip to Fayetteville.
Yep.
They, Kentucky appears to be more athletic as far as that goes, deeper as far as that goes compared to last year, but still going to be some grueling moments, throughout this 18-game conference slate, man.
Yeah, they're not going to be as seasoned as last year's team was. It's not going to be as many older players on the team this year as it was last year because you got more high school kids coming in. I think Jasper Johnson's going to play a huge role for them. But I'm really excited to see what Colin Chandler does because the way he finished the season last year, you could tell the light kind of came on for him towards the end of the year. And so I expect him to make that big jump. And the biggest jump is always between the freshman and sophomore year anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see how big of a leap he makes from last year to this year, especially the way the season ended for him.
Yeah. And having 2 years off for the mission, he just was You just saw Russ continually being
Mhm.
knocked off. There was times, he looked scared to shoot,
Yeah.
earlier in the season. He
Mhm.
was doing pretty good defensively, but like you said, he was starting to get aggressive. He was starting to take it to the rack. He was starting
Yeah.
to, hit. So
Had that
another year.
logo 3 against Illinois.
Yeah, yeah. So and now I mean Pope said it. You got him, Chandler back, Oway back, Noah back, Garrison. You got guys that can, impart wisdom and what he's
Mhm.
trying to do. And then even Pope mentioned it in his presser. As a staff, they'll be better from year one to year two because they
Right.
had outside of him and Fox and Figure, Hart was new.
Mhm.
Alvin Brooks was new. Had a lot of new guys that hadn't even coached together. So that'll be smoother too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think year two. I mean, he's got lofty expectations to follow up last season after all the ranked wins they had last season. So, but I do think it could be a great season for Kentucky. They do need to be a little bit more consistent this year than they were last year, but I think it's going to be a really good season for Kentucky.
Yeah, yeah. So optimism, excitement, and it's the polar opposite. With just the feel around football. It's like,
Yeah.
and everybody's already kind of looking ahead to Big Blue Madness, and
Mm-hmm.
that's up to Stoops to. They keep saying this 1 year blip. We'll see, but if they can, turn it around, and that September schedule, September October is
It's
brutal.
brutal.
So we gonna find out real quick, man.
Yes, yes, and they're replacing so many parts of a team that wasn't that great last year, and so but more than anything, it's the offensive line. If they can get that offensive line just be average, I think you'll see some improvement. It's just the last couple of years is just the offensive line has just let them down.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. It's funny you mentioned that. I had Jagger Burton on last week, and
Mm-hmm.
as as soon as we finished recording, the big dog news broke. So I was like, "Hey, you got you gotta be kidding me, man!" So you talk about So I'll put some clips out from that here in a
Mm-hmm.
few days. But he was pretty honest and candid, because I asked him. I said, I'm not trying to be the dead horse, but the struggles. We saw that South Carolina game and their D
Mm-hmm.
line was eaten, and y'all didn't go through fall camp to go 4-8. I said, you had some pretty good individual performances. What was that dynamic like when week in and week out? It just wasn't happening. And he was kind of open about, I would have much rather graded out a 50 and us win
Mm-hmm.
than grading out 99 on my assignments and having all the struggles. So yeah, it was
Right.
props to him for being kind of stand up about it. And they all want to get this bad taste out of their mouth. We'll see. We'll learn real quick. But it's the vibe from, like you said, 4-8, a ton of
Yeah.
new guys.
You lose Varian Brown and
Yeah,
Dan Key. I mean, it's
yeah,
it's tough to see, and then you look at the schedule. It's tough to see where there's going to be much improvement. But Stoops has turned it around before. He can turn it around again.
yeah. That's it. And the last little thing they mentioned, Kroger Field possibly maybe putting kind of entertainment districts and stuff around the stadium. You've been to a bunch of venues. We're both Cowboys fans. You just got AT&T and then the Ranger Stadium. That's all that's there.
Not
You
anymore.
go.
I heard all kinds of stuff out there now.
They kind of build it up, and some teams do either way.
Yeah.
I'm a Braves fan. They got the Battery and all that around Truist now.
Mm-hmm.
Turner Field, you go and it wasn't much around there.
Mm-hmm.
Go to been to Fenway, you got all kind of stuff around there.
Yeah.
And so everybody kind of does it different. For me, if they do that, great, but it's all about the product on the field.
Mm-hmm.
You still losing to Vanderbilt at home. It ain't gonna be nobody, no matter what you put around the stadium.
Right.
So,
Right. But I do think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that stood out about Omaha. The first time I went was that first year Louisville went in 05, and it was at the old stadium.
Okay.
and like, there was nothing around there, and it was boring. I'm not gonna front, but it's when they built the new stadium. It's downtown. There's all kind of stuff around there, and it's a much more fun experience. And so I'm surprised it took them this long to do it because they have all the room in the world over there, and so I'm surprised it took them this long to like, you know what, this could be some prime real estate for some bars and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I think it's a great idea for them.
And if imagine that you had that when they're going 9-3 and beating Penn State in the bowl game and beating Iowa in the bowl game, and you know, Benny Snell and Josh Allen and all that over there. Kind of the peak of Stoops. Imagine having all that around Kroger Field then. So
that year they beat LSU.
Oh man, yeah. So yeah, some like you said, hopefully they can turn around and recapture all that, and then you add all that other stuff around it with a good product. It all kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Oh, I mentioned the Cowboys real quick. Your thoughts on Shoddy? Got a new coach coming in. What do you think? What's your opinion so far?
I'll give him a shot. I don't know much about him, so I'm not gonna turn my head on him or turn my back on him in year one. I'm gonna let him see what he does. They got all the pieces on offense, it seems like, but they've got all the pieces on both sides of the ball. It's just getting them to play and cut out all the silly stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I love Micah Parsons, but I'm like, sometimes I just wish you didn't talk.
Yeah.
And I had the idea because it drives me crazy with Dallas, because every time you watch a Cowboys game, when they talk about Michael Parsons, they're like, oh yeah, he could play DB or he could play safety, and I'm like, then why do we never drop him back in coverage? He's always just rushing. It's all he does. And I'm like, if he can do all these things, why don't we, I don't know, throw Costa to the wind and throw him in on 3rd and short, let him run for the first down? If he's just this beast of an athlete that we keep hearing about, they just use him in one way. And so I would like to see them diversify what he does. If he's got the speed, he's got all his talent, let's use it.
Yeah. So you're right. All the pieces, bringing in Pickens to, take some pressure off of CD. So hopefully that works. On paper, it looks good. All the Pittsburgh fans are glad he's gone. We'll see how it works.
I'm worried about it, but I know he's in a contract year, so that's usually when you get the best out of players anyway. Now next year he gets the money. Now I'm really be worried, but next year I'm not too worried about it.
Exactly. So I'm with you. Aaron's a Giants fan, so we always talk a little NFC East, but it's had to talk a little bit with a fellow Cowboys fan on here. So
Oh yeah, because Lloyd Spence, who I do believe in the ACC with, he's a Giants fan and a huge Giants fan, and it amazes me how much trash he talks when they have not beaten Dallas since 2021. They play twice a year and have not beaten them once. And he talks so much. He'll start it. And I'm like, what are you doing? The Giants.
They broke Dak's leg and still lost that game.
Yes.
What's he talking for, man?
I don't know why he talks so much.
So tell him about Believe in the ACC, because you were with Charlie Ward, right? Before he was.
He's still with us. He hasn't told us he's not going to do the show. So
okay.
He's recently named head coach at FAMU. He's out recruiting, and we still talk to him. We talk just about every day, and he hasn't said that he can't do the show. I hope he can stay with us. We'll see, but I don't know how. I think it'll be a thing where he'll be able to join us some weeks, and some weeks he won't be able to do it because, especially when they're on the road. So we love having him. We have a good time, and Charlie's his humble flexes. He'll low key say stuff. He's the furthest thing from arrogant that there is, but he'll low key drop some stuff on you to remind you who you're talking to. So, but he's great. Charlie's great. He was at one of our, I think it was our last show that we did of the season. He was at some Heisman thing. And he turns the phone around, and like Archie Griffin, Tony Dorsett, Tim Tebow, and all of them coming up on the show saying hi to us. And so,
oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So hopefully he stays with y'all. I mean, if Doug Gottlieb can do it, so can Charlie Ward. I get, we
don't need to follow his lead.
No, absolutely not. But He's still doing the show and coaching. I'm surely Charlie can.
And the product shows it.
Surely Charlie can't do no worse. I'm gonna say that.
No. When they win like 4 games or something like that, and he's still doing the show. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, man. Good stuff, Kendrick, man. I appreciate you hopping on here.
No problem, anytime.
Had a good trip. Everybody check out Believe in the ACC, and you get all the, you get Louisville as well as all the other teams, all squads in the conference perspective, and you dropping knowledge every episode. So everybody check it out. Appreciate you taking the time to drop some knowledge here on Believe in Kentucky, man.
Always. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Kendrick Haskins stopping by. For Kendrick, my name is Vinny Hardy. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Go Cats. We'll holler at everybody next week. Stay safe, stay warm, stay dry. Do what you need to do, and we'll be back next week.